So I guess if I had a fear, it would be that my bravado, I tend to be a very big person, that my, panache, my showing up in this space would get the best of me. So I guess I do fear that my ego would kind of rule or run me. But other than that, I mean, in terms of will I get the job, or will this happen, or will that work out, or it's just gonna, you know what? I just identified something. I do have a fear. I have a fear that I won't meet the goals of my soul. I just realized that. I think I've realized it before now, but it just came back to me. Yeah. So I would put down in column number 3 for Neil, I am afraid that I won't actually raise to the highest level I can think of being kind, or being compassionate, or being generous, or being tolerant, or forgiving, or all those things, loving and caring, and considerate, and so forth, and all those things that I listed as goals of my soul. So that's what I put down in column number 3. So now in that fourth column, and if you didn't make a fourth column because I didn't warn you to, that just turn the page. In column number 4, I want you to make write a little. This time I want you to write a little essay. I'd like you to, as your homework for tonight, after you turn this lesson off, I'd like you to write a little 300-word essay. No big deal. Just 4 or 5 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs. A little 300-word essay on what I think would happen if I didn't meet that fear head on, and if I remained fearful of that. Well, the third column was things I'm afraid of now. And what I'd like you to do is write a little 300-word essay. What I think would happen? What would my life be like if I didn't meet that fear head on? If I continued to be afraid of those things? Just write a little story about that. And then beneath that, keep it short now, 300 words. It's a very short, little 3-paragraph essay. But then beneath that, I'd like you to write another essay. This can be as many words as you want, just 500 words, 1,000 words, whatever comes to you. What would happen if I did? What would happen if I did meet that fear head on? And what would my life be like if I not only met that fear head on, but pushed through it and came out on the other side? I had a teacher give me a wonderful acronym for fear a few years ago, which I never forgot. It's not the one we've all heard, feeling excited and ready. That's a nice acronym. But I got a better acronym that I got from a teacher of mine a few years ago. Honestly, I forgot which teacher gave me this. I've had 2 or 3 wonderful teachers in my life, and I forgot where I picked this one up. But I remember the acronym vividly. FEAR. Feeling excited and ready. Isn't that a great acronym? Isn't that a great idea about what fear really is? Feeling excited and ready. So what would happen if I felt excited and ready to meet these fears head on and push through them? See, because by the way, that's what stands behind every fear. Behind every fear is another fear. See, behind every fear is what we're afraid of would happen if we met that fear. And when we take that other fear out of it, when that fear is erased, deleted, taken off the blackboard, when that fear no longer exists, then this fear that the thing we were afraid of, starts to dissipate and to dissolve. Or as Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, another wonderful teacher of mine, once said to me in my life, when you're not afraid of dying, you're not afraid of living. And so that's why most people who have done some really remarkable things in their life are not afraid of anything anymore, because they're no longer afraid of dying. Evel Knievel, the daredevil artist who flies motorcycles over 27 cars, you know that guy? Excuse me. Interesting man, and he risks his life, you know, because he wants to, I guess. And don't do this at home, kids, that kind of a thing. So I'm not suggesting you do this, but I can tell you this, I suspect that Evel Knievel is not afraid of a lot. Because once you've confronted your fear of death, it's very difficult to be afraid of other things like they won't like me, you know, or maybe I won't get the job, or whatever it is, or even the goals of the soul not being met. Once you're not afraid of death, because you know that death does not exist. See, what makes you not afraid of death, of course, is knowing that death does not exist. And once you know that death does not exist, you're no longer afraid of not meeting the goals of the soul, because you know you have an infinite number of lifetimes in which to do it. Now that's interesting, because I just said to you that if I had a fear, it would be that I will not meet the goals of my soul. And now I've just come back and said, if you're not afraid of death, because death doesn't exist, you wouldn't be afraid of that. So I guess I should listen to my own teachings and get it right in my own life. I know what it is for me, though. For me, I want to do it right now, in this lifetime. I'd like to get it done in this lifetime if I could. That's okay. It's just a goal I have. It's okay. But that's a little bit of a teaching about the fears that we have not identified and what we can do about them. Okay? Now, I want to conclude this lesson by identifying the soul's agenda. What I'm talking about is the goals of the soul. And, but you know what? I didn't finish. I really wanted to do more on fear. So let me go back. I wanted to do the what-if process with you on fear. So here's what I'd like you to do with regard. Take one of those fears that you listed in column number 2. Didn't we have you list some fears, things you were afraid of as an adult? Being an adult. I'd like you to, things that you're afraid of now. I'd like you to, that's a good one. Let's do this process. I like this process. This process is called, and they'll put on the screen right now for you, the words, what would happen if, with a quotation marks around the word if. What would happen if? And this is the process we're going to do right now. We'll do this together, okay? Let's take one of those fears that you said that you have right now as an adult. Now, if you don't have any, I guess you can't do this process. You can just fast forward past this and go to the rest of the lesson. But for those of us who still can identify one or two fears left in our life, mine was that I wouldn't finish my soul's goals in this lifetime. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to follow this process. Process is called what would happen if. And this is the question I want to ask you. With regard to the fear that you have identified, what would happen if that occurred? What would happen if what you're afraid of actually occurred? In my case, to use an example, my fear as an adult is at this point in my life that I may not meet my soul's goals before I die. Okay? What would happen if that actually occurred? And I get to look at that. And I get to answer that in my mind or maybe on a piece of paper. Excuse me, what would happen if that actually occurred? And then so I'm going to invite you to do that now. Just write down on a piece of paper in a single sentence. Well, if that actually occurred, if what I'm afraid of actually occurred, this is what would happen. Okay, just write that down. Take a minute and do that while I have a little sip of water here from my water glass. I have to cover up the label because if we do labels, then they have to pay us for. I don't want you to know that I'm drinking Arrowhead water. So it's not supposed to do that. It's called a product plug. Not supposed to have product plugs. Okay, did you write that down? Okay, now beneath that, What would happen if that happened? See, ask the same question again about that. So to give you an example, in my case, I'm afraid that I won't meet my soul's goals in this lifetime. What would happen if that occurred? Well, then I would die without meeting my soul's goals. What would happen then? See, what would happen if that happened? Write down the answer to that question on your piece of paper. Hurry up because we're all waiting. What would happen if that actually happened? Or think about it in your mind if you don't want to write it down. In my own case, what would happen if I actually did die without meeting my soul's goals? Well, then I would have a chance to meet those same goals again the next time I came into physicality, because this is not my only time through here, and I will give myself repeated opportunities to meet those goals in the next incarnation.